Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. Look here. Patricia has no idea that she's playing with fire. Has no idea. But see, Ray does. Ray does. See, he's constantly in contact with Kenny about what's going on with the business and all this and that, right? And Kenny knows that Ray has information to prove that he's messing around with Patricia. He knows that because the police chief is telling him that, right? But Ray don't know that they know. You see what I'm saying? That he know. Ray don't know that because he don't know that the police chief is passing along the conversations that he's having on the phone. You feel what I mean? He don't know what's really going on with that. So he makes sure that Kenny comes to visit him, right? He arranges for a special visit. And Kenny, he comes down there and he's talking to him. He's trying to tell him, you know what I'm saying, that he's got a problem that needs to be taken care of. And Kenny's like, what's the problem? And Ray tells him, he says that, I got somebody that's not as loyal as they appear to be. I got somebody in my organization that is playing me for a fool. They think they are, right? And I want to bring something to their attention. And he asked Kenny, would you take the message to the individual that I'm talking about? So Kenny plays along. He says, sure, boss, anything that you need me to do, just ask me to do, right? And he told Kenny, he said, I need you to relay the message that I know about your wife. I know about your kids. I know about the people that you really love, right? And that if you continue to do what it is that you're doing to me, I'm going to make sure that they know what you're doing. And then if that's not enough to get this person to stop, then let that person know that, and I'll do whatever I need to do to make sure that they stop doing what they do to me. So Kenny looked at him, sweating, eyes done got big as a $50, and he said, boss, who is this message for? So that's when Ray stood up from the table and he looked him in his eyes and he told him, he said, you know who the message is for. Make sure the message is received. Tell them they got 24 hours. And then he leaned forward on the table, you know, like that pit bull you got. You know how pit bull be bow-legged and stuff like that? See, Ray put his arms down on the table, bow-legged, leaned into him, right, and looked him right in the eyes and said, do you understand what I'm saying, Kenny? And Kenny looked up at him, right? You know, when a person is scared, right, listen to me now. I'm going to give y'all a little bit. This is some science right here. When a person is scared, when they sweat, they release what they call cortisol, right? See, that's how an animal can smell fear on us, right? You feel what I'm saying? When you're sweating, you sweat cortisol, and the animal can smell it like a dog or a lion in the jungle, whatever the case may be. So when you're trying to act all brave in front of somebody and you start sweating, guess what? You spooked. Right. See, as a human being, I might not know what cortisol smells like. Never really, smelled it that I know of. But if I see you sweating, your armpits, you know how your armpits get sweat on your nose or on your forehead, and if you're bald-headed, to cover your whole head and just start rolling down your forehead. See, if I see any of that, I know you're nervous. See, you're sweating. Fear. Especially depending on the circumstances, right? And see, Kenny was sweating, trickling down his nose. And see, here go Ray with his arms bow-legged on the table, leaning into him like the gangster that he is, right? Because he was meek, they thought he was weak. He ain't weak. He's just a businessman. And see, what was going on was threatening his business. And he wasn't going to tolerate that no more. So he told Kenny, you got 24 hours, man. You got 24 hours, and you know who this message is for. Clean it up. And when you do clean it up, make sure it's you. Meaning this, y'all. Let me tell you something else. Let me give y'all some more science. When a person tells you in the streets, meaning it's you, you better take the fall. You better put it all on you while things are finna change. Period. Point blank. Because it's one thing that Ray wasn't going to tolerate, and that was somebody trying to take from him. You can't do that in the streets, y'all. You can't do that. Can't take nothing from nobody and expect no consequences. That's just not how it works. Life is not a video game, y'all. No matter how much people want to believe that it is, and you don't get to hit the button and say start over. That ain't how that works. That ain't how that works. You got to live with the consequences that you laid out. And now Kenny gonna have to live with these consequences. Now he got to figure out how to go tell Patricia that it's over. That it's over. Because see, what she didn't understand is that Kenny never had any intentions on staying with her, y'all. Kenny was trying to get what he wanted to get so he can go be with the people that he really loved. The game gets dark, man. Does that mean that Ray was the right dude and doing the right thing by Patricia? Absolutely not. But he wasn't finna let somebody else come in and take what belonged to him. You understand what I'm saying? And you can take that as you will, right? Patricia is his wife. The money he made was his money. And he wasn't finna let somebody come in and take it because they know how to dick her down. That ain't how the game works. Some of y'all want to believe that's how it works, but that's because you know that the person that you might be dealing with can't issue out the consequences. But in this situation, Ray could, and he laid the law down. So when Kenny gets back to the house with Patricia, he tries to figure out how to pull away from her, how to leave her alone. You understand what I'm saying? He wants to back up and get out of this situation. So he goes into the restroom and he washes his face and he says, I know what I gotta do. I know what I gotta do. And he comes out of the room and it takes all that he has because he does have feelings for her, but he knows that he wasn't gonna spend the rest of his life with her. He smacks her. He smacks her. She falls to the ground. Her face is in shock. Her lip is cut. It's bleeding. She's like, why? Why? Then he looks at her and he says, you think I can trust you with what you did to him? I don't want you. I just wanted the money. And she looks at him and she crawls over to him. She don't get up. She's afraid. She's showing him that she's going to be submissive to him. She pulls herself over to him and she grabs his leg and she said, don't do this to me. I've sacrificed everything for you. Please don't do this to me. And he tells her, it's over. It's over. He said, you're going to have plenty of money, but I'm taking what belongs to me. And I'm leaving tonight, and I won't be back. And she jumps up out of anger and rage, and she grabs him, she scratches him, and he smacks her again, and he knocks her down on the bed, and he's on top of it, and he's beating her. And little Ray comes to the door. He hears the commotion. And he runs, and he jumps on him. He tries to tell, get off my mama, get off my mama. And he pushes little Ray, and he knocks him to the ground. And he stops. Because when he turns to look at little Ray, he sees himself in the mirror. And he sees a wild man, somebody that he don't recognize. But he has to do this. He has to make her know that he has to go. Because if not, he's going to lose everything. And he don't want to lose his wife and kids. He don't want any harm to come to them, but he knows that the stakes are high. And he has to do this. So he turns back to her and he slaps her one last time, and she lays there and she's crying and she's bleeding. He gets up and he grabs the bag. Little Ray jumps up on the bed to hug his mama, and Kenny walks out, never to return. And she lay there, she's crying in the bed. And little Ray says, where's Daddy? Where's Daddy? He wouldn't do this if Daddy were here. He wouldn't do this if Daddy were here. And if you want to hear how this unravels, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.